The courthouse hallway erupted around Emily, voices shouting, doors slamming, yet all she could hear was her own ragged breathing. She gripped the marble wall to stop the world from tilting, one hand on her 7-month belly as she forced herself forward. Today, she wasn't just testifying. She was fighting the man who once vowed to love her and might now destroy everything. "You look pathetic," a voice hissed behind her. Emily turned to see Vanessa strutting toward her in a dress so tight it left nothing to imagination. Red stilettos clicked against the floor like a countdown to disaster. The younger woman's perfectly glossed lips curled into a smile that could cut glass. "Vanessa, please, not today. Every day, sweetheart. Every single day until you disappear." Vanessa leaned in close, her perfume overwhelming. "Richard's mine now. That baby? We'll take good care of it once you're gone. Before we go any further, tell us what time you're watching and where you're tuning in from. Drop a comment below. We would love to hear from you." Before Emily could respond, Vanessa's hand shot out and shoved her shoulder. Not hard enough to be obvious to the security cameras, but enough to make Emily stumble backward. Her pregnant belly threw off her balance. She grabbed for the wall, gasping as sharp pain radiated through her lower back. "Oops," Vanessa said, examining her manicured nails. "You really should be more careful in your condition." Emily's vision blurred with tears, but she refused to let them fall. Not here. Not in front of this woman who'd stolen everything from her. She straightened up, one hand protectively cradling her belly, and walked into the courtroom without another word. That moment of defiance cost her. By the time she reached her seat, her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold her purse. Her lawyer, a kind older woman named Patricia, immediately noticed. "Emily, are you all right? You're pale." "I'm fine," Emily whispered, though she wasn't. Nothing was fine. Nothing had been fine since 3 weeks ago, when her entire world shattered. 3 weeks. That's all it had been since she'd walked into Richard's office with a homemade anniversary dinner, expecting surprised kisses and grateful hugs. Instead, she'd found him with his tongue down Vanessa's throat, his hands tangled in her long blonde hair, completely lost in passion he'd never shown Emily in their 5 years of marriage. The memory still made her stomach turn. She could still see the way he'd pulled away from Vanessa, not apologetic or ashamed, just annoyed at the interruption. Could still hear his cold voice saying, "We need to talk, Emily. This isn't working anymore." No explanation, no remorse. Just 5 years of marriage dismissed like a failed business transaction. That was Richard's specialty, after all. Cold calculations. He'd built his real estate empire on the ability to see value and exploit it, to buy low and sell high, to never let emotions cloud profitable decisions. Apparently, Emily had depreciated in value. At 45, he'd decided to upgrade to a newer model. The courtroom doors opened again, and Richard walked in with Vanessa on his arm. He looked exactly like the successful millionaire he was, all custom-tailored suit and expensive cologne. His salt and pepper hair was perfectly styled, his Rolex catching the light as he adjusted his cufflinks. Handsome, confident, completely untouchable. Vanessa matched him in designer clothes and borrowed wealth. At 26, she had the kind of beauty that turned heads and emptied wallets. She knew it too. The way she moved through the courtroom was calculated to draw every eye, to remind Emily of everything she wasn't anymore. Young, thin, desirable. They took their seats across the aisle. Richard's lawyer, a shark-like man named Douglas Brennan, leaned over to whisper something that made Richard smirk. Vanessa caught Emily staring and blew her a mocking kiss. Patricia squeezed Emily's hand. "Stay strong. Truth has a way of winning." Emily wanted to believe that. She really did. But truth seemed like a luxury when your opponent could afford the best lawyers money could buy. Richard had already filed for divorce and full custody of their unborn child. His legal team had painted Emily as unstable, financially dependent, unable to provide the kind of life a child deserved. The kind of life Richard's money could buy. All rise for the Honorable Judge Marcus Harrison. The bailiff's voice cut through the murmur of conversation. Emily struggled to her feet, her back aching from the baby's weight. She watched as an older man in black robes entered through the side door, his face stern and weathered by decades of difficult decisions. Judge Harrison was imposing, tall, broad-shouldered despite his age, with silver hair and dark eyes that seemed to see straight through people's lies. He carried himself with quiet authority, the kind that didn't need to shout to command respect. Emily had heard he was fair but tough, a judge who didn't tolerate games in his courtroom. She prayed that was true. Judge Harrison took his seat and began sorting through papers, not looking up as the bailiff announced the case. Family Court, case number 78429, Mitchell versus Mitchell. Petition for divorce and custody determination. Counsel, please state your appearances. Patricia stood. Patricia Goldman for the respondent, Emily Mitchell, Your Honor. Douglas Brennan rose with theatrical flair. Douglas Brennan for the petitioner, Richard Mitchell, Your Honor. Also present is Miss Vanessa Crane, who will be testifying as a character witness. Judge Harrison's eyes flicked up at that, his brow furrowing slightly. Miss Crane is not party to this marriage or custody matter. Her presence as a character witness is highly irregular. Your Honor, Miss Crane has valuable insight into the respondent's fitness as a mother, Brennan argued smoothly. She's the mistress, Patricia cut in sharply. The woman Mr. Mitchell was having an affair with during his marriage. Her testimony would be prejudicial at best, vindictive at worst. The judge's expression darkened. He looked at Richard, then at Vanessa, then back to the paperwork. We'll address witness credibility when and if we reach that point. Mr. Brennan, present your opening statement. Brennan stood, buttoning his jacket with practiced ease. Your Honor, this case is straightforward. My client, Richard Mitchell, is a successful businessman who can provide every material advantage for his child. The respondent, Emily Mitchell, has no independent income, no career, no means of support beyond what my client has generously provided during their marriage. Emily's cheeks burned. The way he said it made her sound like a parasite, not a wife who'd supported Richard's career, who'd managed his home, who'd been there through every late night and stressful deal. Mr. Mitchell is concerned, Brennan continued, that Ms. Mitchell's emotional instability and financial dependency make her unsuitable for primary custody. He's requesting full physical custody with supervised visitation for the mother, along with a fair but modest support arrangement. Fair. Modest. The words were insults wrapped in legal language. Richard was worth $20 million, but he wanted to give Emily scraps while taking her baby. Patricia stood before Brennan could sit down. Your Honor, what Mr. Brennan describes as emotional instability is actually appropriate grief and anger at discovering her husband's infidelity. Emily Mitchell dedicated 5 years to her marriage, supporting her husband's career while he built his fortune. She's a victim here, not an unfit mother. The respondent has no history of mental illness, substance abuse, or neglect. She's attended every prenatal appointment, followed every medical recommendation, and prepared thoroughly for motherhood. Mr. Mitchell's petition is nothing more than a wealthy man using the legal system to punish his wife for the inconvenience of her continued existence. Counsel, Judge Harrison's voice was sharp. Let's keep the dramatics to a minimum. This is family court, not theater. Patricia nodded, chastened. My apologies, Your Honor. The judge looked down at his papers again, and something strange happened. His eyes caught on something, and his expression shifted. It was subtle, barely noticeable, but Emily saw it. A flash of recognition, maybe even shock, before his professional mask slammed back into place. "Mrs. Mitchell," he said, looking directly at her for the first time. "Your maiden name is listed here as Emily Sarah Cartwright. Is that correct?" Emily blinked, surprised by the question. "Yes, Your Honor." "And you were born in Greenfield, Oregon?" "Yes, Your Honor, in 1993. Something passed across the judge's face again. His jaw tightened. His hands gripped the edge of the bench just a little harder. Then it was gone, replaced by professional neutrality. "Proceed with witness testimony," he said, but his voice sounded different, strained. Emily exchanged confused glances with Patricia, but her lawyer just shrugged slightly. Across the aisle, Richard looked annoyed at the delay. Vanessa was scrolling through her phone, bored already. Brennan called Richard to the stand first. He strode up confidently, took his oath without hesitation, and settled into the witness chair like he owned it. Which, Emily thought bitterly, he probably assumed he did. Richard thought he owned everything. "Mr. Mitchell," Brennan began, "please describe your concerns about your wife's ability to care for your child." Richard leaned forward, his expression perfectly crafted to show reluctant concern. "Emily's always been fragile emotionally. She doesn't handle stress well. I've supported her completely for 5 years, but she's never shown any independence or drive. I'm worried about what kind of example that sets for a child." Lies. All lies. Emily had worked as a teacher when they met. She'd quit because Richard insisted, said he made enough for both of them, that he wanted her available for the business dinners and social events his career required. She'd given up her independence because he'd asked her to. "And the affair?" Brennan continued. "How did that situation develop?" "Objection," Patricia stood. "The affair is not relevant to custody determination." "Your Honor, it goes to the emotional environment," Brennan argued. Judge Harrison considered. "I'll allow it, but keep it brief." Richard nodded. "Emily and I grew apart. She became more withdrawn, less interested in my life and career. I met Vanessa at a business conference. She was vibrant, engaged, everything my marriage wasn't anymore. I regret the timing, but these things happen. These things happen. Like it was weather, not a choice, not a betrayal, not the destruction of everything Emily had believed in." Patricia stood for cross-examination, her expression stern. "Mr. Mitchell, you say your wife is fragile and dependent, yet you systematically isolated her from her career and friends, correct?" "I never isolated anyone." "You asked her to quit her teaching job 5 years ago, didn't you?" Richard shifted slightly. "I suggested it would be easier given my schedule." "You suggested. And when she maintained friendships you deemed inappropriate, you made your displeasure known." "I don't control who she talks to." "No, you just made her life miserable when she did. And now, after creating this dependency, you're using it against her in court to take her child. Does that sound fair to you, Mr. Mitchell?" "Objection, argumentative," Brennan called out. "Sustained," Judge Harrison said, but he was watching Richard with an expression Emily couldn't quite read. Patricia continued. "You're requesting full custody despite having no experience with childcare, despite working 80-hour weeks, despite planning to travel extensively for business. Who exactly will be raising this child if you win custody?" Richard's confident mask slipped just slightly. "I'll hire qualified help." "Nannies. You mean nannies. So your argument is that paid strangers are better for this child than its own mother?" "I'm saying I can provide better material circumstances." "Better than love? Better than a mother's bond?" Patricia pressed. "Objection, Your Honor. Counsel is speechifying." "Sustained. Move on, Ms. Goldman." Patricia nodded, but she'd made her point. She returned to her seat, and Emily felt a tiny spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, the truth would matter. Then Brennan called Vanessa to the stand. Vanessa strutted to the witness box like she was on a runway, her hips swaying deliberately. She took her oath with a smile that didn't reach her eyes and settled into the chair, crossing her long legs prominently. "Miss Crane," Brennan began, "how would you characterize Emily Mitchell's behavior?" "Unstable," Vanessa said immediately. "She called me dozens of times after finding out about Richard and me, screaming, crying, making threats." "That's not true," Emily whispered urgently to Patricia. "We'll address it," Patricia whispered back. Vanessa continued, warming to her role. "She's obsessed with Richard. She can't accept that their marriage is over. Honestly, I worry about what she might do. That kind of instability around a baby, it's dangerous." Emily's hands clenched into fists. Every word was poison, carefully calculated lies designed to paint her as crazy. And the worst part? Vanessa was good at it. She looked concerned, reasonable, like someone genuinely worried about a child's welfare rather than a mistress trying to eliminate competition. Judge Harrison leaned forward. "Miss Crane, you understand you're under oath?" "Of course, Your Honor." "And you're aware that false testimony is perjury, a crime punishable by imprisonment?" Something flickered in Vanessa's eyes. Uncertainty. Fear. But she recovered quickly. "I'm telling the truth." "We'll see," the judge muttered, so quietly Emily almost missed it. Patricia stood for cross-examination, her expression sharp as a blade. "Miss Crane, how long have you been involved with Richard Mitchell?" "About 8 months." "So you began this affair while he was still married, and his wife was becoming pregnant?" Vanessa shrugged. "I didn't know about the pregnancy initially." "But you knew about the marriage?" "Yes." "And that didn't concern you? The fact that you were helping a man betray his wife?" "People grow apart," Vanessa said, echoing Richard's earlier words. "I didn't break up their marriage. It was already broken." "How convenient for your conscience. Tell me, Miss Crane, do you have any experience with children? Any background in childcare or child development?" "No, but..." "So your opinion on Emily's fitness as a mother is based on what, exactly? Your extensive credentials and absolutely nothing?" "Objection, Your Honor. Counsel is badgering the witness." "Sustained. Ms. Goldman, maintain professional courtesy." Patricia took a breath. "Miss Crane, you claim Emily called you making threats. Do you have any evidence of these calls? Phone records? Recordings?" Vanessa hesitated. "No." "No? So we're just supposed to take your word for it? The word of a woman who admittedly helped destroy this marriage?" "I'm telling the truth." "Are you? Or are you simply trying to eliminate any obstacle between you and Richard's fortune?" Vanessa's face flushed red. "That's not what this is about." "Isn't it? You're 26, unemployed, and living in an apartment Richard pays for. Without him, you have nothing. So you need Emily completely out of the picture, don't you? You need her discredited, dismissed, destroyed so you can step into the life she built." "That's not true." "Then explain why you've been seen harassing Emily. Explain why multiple witnesses reported seeing you confront her in the courthouse hallway just 30 minutes ago." Vanessa's eyes widened. She glanced quickly at Richard, panic clear on her face. "That was nothing. We just talked." "Just talked? The way you just talked when you shoved her?" "I didn't shove anyone." Judge Harrison's gavel came down hard. "Order. Miss Crane, answer the question truthfully." Vanessa's perfect composure cracked. "It was an accident. She was in my way." "An accident," Patricia repeated, "against a woman 7 months pregnant. How convenient." "Objection, Your Honor. This is speculation." "Overruled. Miss Crane, Did you have physical contact with Mrs. Mitchell in the hallway today? Vanessa bit her lip. The silence stretched. Finally, she whispered, "It was barely anything." "Barely anything," Judge Harrison repeated, his voice cold as winter. "To a pregnant woman, in a courthouse, where you have no legitimate business being." He turned to the bailiff. "Request the security footage from hallway 3 for the past hour." "Your Honor, that's not necessary," Brennan said quickly. "I'll determine what's necessary in my courtroom, Counselor. Miss Crane, you're dismissed. I suggest you use this recess to consider the difference between testimony and perjury." Vanessa practically ran from the witness stand. Richard's confident expression had finally cracked, replaced by something closer to concern. Brennan was whispering urgently in his ear. Judge Harrison stood. "We'll take a 30-minute recess while the security footage is retrieved. Mrs. Mitchell, if you need medical attention, I suggest you avail yourself of it now." Emily nodded, but as she tried to stand, the courtroom tilted sideways. The stress, the fear, Vanessa's shove, all of it crashed down on her at once. She felt her knees buckle, felt Patricia's hands reaching for her, heard voices shouting her name. Then everything went black. Emily woke to fluorescent lights and the steady beep of medical equipment. A hospital. She was in a hospital. Panic seized her immediately, and her hands flew to her belly. "The baby," she gasped. "Please, my baby. The baby's fine." A gentle voice interrupted her panic. A nurse appeared in her field of vision, smiling reassuringly. "Your daughter's heartbeat is strong and steady. You fainted from stress and dehydration, but there's no signs of distress to the fetus." Daughter. They'd said daughter. Emily started crying, relief overwhelming every other emotion. Her baby girl was okay. Nothing else mattered. "You need to rest, Mrs. Mitchell. Your blood pressure is elevated, and stress isn't good for either of you. We're going to keep you overnight for observation." "I can't. The court hearing has been postponed," another voice said from the doorway. Emily turned her head to see Judge Harrison standing there, looking uncomfortable in his robes among the medical equipment. His presence was so unexpected that for a moment she thought she was hallucinating. "Your Honor, I don't understand." The nurse glanced between them, clearly sensing something she didn't understand. "I'll give you some privacy. 5 minutes, then she needs rest." When they were alone, Judge Harrison moved closer to the bed. His stern courtroom demeanor had softened into something else, something that looked almost like pain. "Emily," he said quietly, "I need to ask you something. Your mother's name was Sarah Cartwright before she married?" Emily nodded slowly, confused. "Yes, Sarah Ann Cartwright. She died when I was 3. Cancer." The judge's eyes closed briefly, his face a mask of emotion. "And your father?" "I never knew him. Mom raised me alone. She said he left before I was born." "That's what she told you?" Something in his tone made Emily's heart race. "What do you mean?" Judge Harrison pulled a chair close to her bedside and sat down heavily, suddenly looking every one of his 68 years. "Your mother didn't leave by choice, Emily. She ran. From me." The words hung in the air like smoke. Emily stared at him, trying to make sense of what he was saying. "I don't understand." "Sarah and I met when we were young. Too young, probably. I was in law school, working 2 jobs to pay tuition. She was a waitress at a diner where I studied. We fell in love fast and hard, the kind of love that feels like forever when you're 23. His voice was thick with old pain, old regret. Emily found herself holding her breath. "But I had demons back then. I drank too much. When the stress got bad, I got angry. I never hit her, but I screamed, threw things, punched walls. I scared her. Hell, I scared myself. One night I came home drunk after failing the bar exam for the 2nd time, and I destroyed half our apartment in a rage." Emily could see moisture gathering in the judge's eyes. The next morning, Sarah was gone. Took what she could carry and disappeared. I tried to find her, but she'd covered her tracks well. Changed her name, moved states. I didn't know she was pregnant until years later when I finally got sober, hired a real investigator, and started piecing together what happened. By then, the trail was cold. I found records of a baby girl born in Greenfield, Oregon, but no forwarding addresses after your mother died. You went into foster care, and the system lost track of you through various placements. I've been searching for 30 years, Emily. 30 years trying to find my daughter and tell her I'm sorry. That I got help. That I've been sober for 28 years. That not a day has gone by that I didn't regret the man I was. Tears were streaming down Emily's face now. "You're my father?" "I believe so. The names, the dates, the location, it all fits. But more than that." He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and gently touched her hand. "You have your mother's eyes, her smile. The first moment you walked into my courtroom, something in my chest just knew." Emily couldn't speak. Her entire world had turned upside down twice in 3 weeks. First losing her husband, now finding a father she never knew existed. It was too much. Way too much. "I've already recused myself from your case," Judge Harrison said quickly. "It's a conflict of interest. Another judge will handle the proceedings, but I had to tell you, had to let you know that you're not alone in this fight." "Why didn't Mom tell me about you?" Emily whispered. "Because she was scared, and she had every right to be. I was a monster back then, Emily. Not an excuse, just a fact. She did what she had to do to protect you both. I can't be angry about that, even though it cost me everything. But you changed." "I did, but that doesn't erase what I was. Your mother never got to see the man I became. She died thinking you were better off without me." His voice broke. Maybe she was right. No. Emily surprised herself with the firmness in her voice. She wasn't right. I spent my whole life wondering about you, making up stories about who you might be, and now you're here, and you're good, and you want to help me. Judge Harrison's tough exterior finally crumbled. He bent forward, his shoulders shaking with quiet sobs. "I'm so sorry. For everything. For not being there. For not protecting you from men like Richard Mitchell." Emily reached out with her free hand and touched his silver hair. The gesture was tentative, uncertain, but real. "You're here now. That's what matters." They stayed like that for a long moment, two broken people finding unexpected connection in a hospital room. Then the nurse returned, gently but firmly insisting that Emily needed rest. Judge Harrison, her father, stood to leave. At the door, he turned back. "Your case will go to Judge Catherine Reeves. She's fair and smart and doesn't take kindly to people who abuse the system. You're in good hands. Will you be there, at the hearing?" "I can't be in the courtroom, but I'll be close. And Emily, that footage from the courthouse hallway? It shows exactly what that woman did to you. You're going to be okay. Your daughter is going to be okay. I promise you that." After he left, Emily lay in the dark, one hand on her belly, processing everything. She'd lost a husband but found a father. Her baby would have a grandfather, a family. The thought made her cry again, but this time from something closer to hope. The next morning, Patricia arrived with coffee and determination. "How are you feeling?" "Physically, better, emotionally, I don't even know where to start." Patricia smiled. "I heard about Judge Harrison. That's quite a development." "You knew." He told the court clerk this morning when he recused himself. "Emily, this doesn't change your case legally, but it matters. You have someone powerful in your corner now. Someone who understands the system and won't let Richard run roughshod over you." He seemed so certain I'd win. That security footage helps. A lot. Vanessa assaulting you in the courthouse, combined with her obvious lies on the stand, has seriously damaged Richard's case. Judge Reeves is going to take one look at that video and see it for what it is. A vindictive mistress trying to eliminate her competition. Emily took a sip of coffee, feeling strength returning. What happens next? We go back to court tomorrow. Richard's legal team is scrambling because their star witness just committed perjury. They'll probably try to settle, offer you a better deal to avoid the embarrassment of losing publicly. I don't want his money, Emily said firmly. I want my daughter. Full custody with reasonable visitation for Richard if he can prove he actually wants to be a father and not just punish me. Patricia grinned. That's the spirit. Now rest up. Tomorrow we finish this. The following morning, Emily walked into the courthouse with her head high. Patricia was on one side, and to her surprise, Marcus Harrison was waiting in the hallway. Not as a judge, but as her father, wearing a simple suit instead of robes. I can't be in the courtroom, he said, but I'll be right outside. If you need anything at all, you send word. Emily hugged him, still getting used to the reality of having a father. Thank you for everything. Inside, Judge Catherine Reeves presided. She was a formidable woman in her 50s, with steel-gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. She listened to both sides, watched the security footage twice, and then fixed Richard and Vanessa with a look that could melt steel. Mr. Mitchell, she said coldly, you've wasted this court's time with false allegations and perjured testimony. You've attempted to use your wealth to take a child from a fit mother for no reason other than spite. This court does not look kindly on such manipulation. Richard's expensive lawyer tried to interrupt, but Judge Reeves silenced him with a raised hand. Miss Crane, you assaulted a pregnant woman in this courthouse and then lied about it under oath. I'm holding you in contempt and referring your case to the district attorney for perjury charges. Bailiff, take her into custody. Vanessa's scream of outrage echoed through the courtroom as security handcuffed her. Richard, do something! But Richard was staring at the table, his empire of lies crumbling around him. For the first time since this started, he looked small. Judge Reeves continued. Mrs. Mitchell will have full physical and legal custody of the child. Mr. Mitchell will have supervised visitation rights, pending completion of court-ordered counseling and parenting classes. He will pay child support in accordance with state guidelines based on his income. Furthermore, he will cover all medical expenses related to the birth and ongoing care. Patricia squeezed Emily's hand under the table. They'd won. Completely. Totally won. Mr. Mitchell, I want to be very clear, Judge Reeves said, leaning forward. If you continue to harass your ex-wife, if you use your resources to make her life difficult, if you attempt any further manipulation of this custody arrangement, I will revisit these terms with extreme prejudice. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor, Richard muttered. Court adjourned. Emily walked out of that courtroom feeling lighter than she had in months. In the hallway, Marcus was waiting with tears in his eyes. He pulled her into a tight hug. You did it. I'm so proud of you. We did it, Emily corrected. I couldn't have been strong enough without knowing you were here. The weeks that followed blurred together in a haze of preparation. Emily moved out of the house she'd shared with Richard and into a modest apartment that Marcus helped her find. It wasn't fancy, but it was hers. A place where she could build a new life for her daughter. Tara, her best friend who'd been there through everything, helped her set up the nursery. They painted the walls a soft lavender and assembled furniture that Emily picked out herself. Not expensive designer pieces Richard would have chosen, but things with meaning and love. How does it feel? Tara asked as they stood back to admire their work. Being free? Emily considered the question. Terrifying. Liberating. I spent so long being Richard's wife that I forgot how to be just Emily. But I'm remembering. Slowly. Marcus visited often, tentatively building the relationship they'd both been denied for 3 decades. They had dinner together, talked for hours about Sarah and what she'd been like. He shared stories of the man he used to be and the long journey to becoming someone better. Emily learned she had half-siblings, Marcus's children from his second marriage, people who were cautiously excited to meet their sister. A family. She was building a family. Richard, meanwhile, was discovering that actions have consequences. News of the court case had leaked to the business community. His partners didn't appreciate the publicity of one of their own being exposed as a man who'd betrayed his pregnant wife and tried to manipulate the courts. 3 major deals fell through. 2 partners bought out his shares and forced him out of projects. Vanessa, facing perjury charges, turned on him completely. She gave an interview to a local news station, painting herself as a victim manipulated by a wealthy older man. The lies were so transparent that most people saw through them, but the damage was done. Richard's reputation was in tatters. Emily felt no satisfaction in his downfall. She felt nothing for him at all anymore, which was perhaps the greatest freedom: indifference. He was simply a man who'd be in her life because they shared a child, nothing more. 2 weeks before her due date, Emily woke in the middle of the night to sharp pain. Not contractions exactly, but something wrong. She called 911, then Marcus, her hands shaking as she tried to stay calm. Marcus beat the ambulance to her apartment, somehow. He held her hand in the back of the ambulance, talking softly to keep her focused. "You're strong, Emily. Like your mother. She was the strongest person I ever knew. I'm scared. That's okay. Fear means you care. It means you're fighting for something worth fighting for." At the hospital, doctors determined she was in early labor. Not an emergency, but the baby was coming soon. They admitted her, started monitoring, and assured her everything looked good. Marcus stayed by her side through the night as contractions grew stronger. When morning came and it was time to push, he held her hand and coached her through it, just like a father should. "One more, Emily. One more push. You've got this." And then, suddenly, there was crying. Not her crying, though she was definitely doing that too. A baby's cry. Strong and loud and absolutely perfect. "It's a girl," the doctor announced, holding up a tiny, squirming miracle covered in vernix and blood and beautiful beyond measure. They placed her on Emily's chest, and the world stopped. Nothing existed except this moment, this tiny person, this overwhelming wave of love so powerful it hurt. "Hi, baby girl," Emily whispered through her tears. "I'm your mom. I'm your mom, and I'm going to protect you always. I promise." Marcus was crying too, his hand gently touching his granddaughter's tiny head. "She's perfect, Emily. Absolutely perfect." "Do you have a name?" the nurse asked. Emily looked at her father, this man who'd searched for her for 30 years, who'd stood by her through the hardest fight of her life. "Sarah. Her name is Sarah Marcus Mitchell. After the grandmother she'll never meet, and the grandfather who found us both." Marcus's face crumpled with emotion. "Emily, you don't have to. I want to. Sarah Marcus. A name that means something, that reminds her she comes from survivors." The next few days were a blur of feeding, sleeping, and learning how to care for a newborn. Marcus was there constantly, bringing food, helping with late-night diaper changes, just being present. Tara visited with gifts and stories to make Emily laugh. Even Marcus's other children came by, welcoming their niece with warmth that made Emily cry happy tears. Richard came once for his court-mandated supervised visit. He held Sarah awkwardly, clearly uncomfortable with the reality of an actual baby versus the theoretical child he'd fought for. The supervisor, a stern woman named Mrs. Chen, watched him like a hawk. "She needs to be supported better," Mrs. Chen corrected when Sarah started fussing. "Hold her head like this." Richard looked relieved when the visit was over. As he left, Emily felt a flash of pity for him. He'd destroyed everything for pride and money, and in the end, he had neither. Just a daughter he didn't know how to love and a reputation in ruins. But that was his burden to carry. Emily had her own life to build. 3 months later, Emily stood in a small courtroom for a very different kind of hearing. Marcus stood beside her, his hand on her shoulder. Judge Reeves presided again, but this time with a smile. "This court has reviewed the petition for adoption," Judge Reeves said, reading from the papers before her. "Given the biological relationship and the circumstances, I see no reason to delay. Marcus Harrison, do you swear to care for and support Emily Mitchell as your daughter?" "I do," Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. "Emily Mitchell, do you accept Marcus Harrison as your legal father?" "I do." "Then, by the power vested in me by the state, I hereby finalize this adoption. Congratulations to both of you." It was a ceremonial, really. Marcus had always been her father by blood, but having it recognized legally, officially, felt like closing a circle that had been broken for 3 decades. Afterward, they celebrated at Marcus's house with his family, Emily's new family. His wife, Linda, had embraced Emily with open arms from the start. His son David and daughter Rebecca treated her like they'd known her forever. Sarah, now 3 months old and smiling at everything, was passed around and cooed over by everyone. "I can't believe this is my life," Emily said to Marcus as they stood on the back porch, watching the sun set while the family laughed inside. "6 months ago, I thought I'd lost everything. Now I have more than I ever dreamed of." Marcus wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "You didn't lose everything, Emily. You lost dead weight. And what you have now? This is what family is supposed to feel like. No conditions, no manipulation, just love." Emily leaned into him, feeling safe in a way she never had with Richard. "Do you ever wonder what life would have been like if Mom hadn't left? If we'd had all this time together?" "Every day," Marcus admitted. "But I also know that the man I was back then would have destroyed us both. Your mother's choice, as painful as it was, gave me the wake-up call I needed. I got sober, I got help. I became someone worthy of being a father. Maybe this is how it was always meant to happen." "Meant to happen through all that pain?" "Sometimes we have to break completely before we can rebuild into something stronger. Look at you. 6 months ago, you were a woman who'd lost herself in someone else's shadow. Now, you're a mother, a fighter, someone who knows her own strength. Richard didn't break you. He freed you." Emily considered that. It was true, in a way. She'd spent 5 years being the perfect wife, molding herself into what Richard wanted, losing pieces of herself along the way. The divorce had been devastating, but it had also been liberation. A chance to rediscover who Emily Mitchell really was when she wasn't trying to please a man who would never be satisfied. Inside, Sarah started crying. Emily smiled. "That's my cue. Feeding time." She went inside to find Rebecca already picking up Sarah, rocking her gently. "I've got her if you want to eat something first. You barely touched dinner." "Are you sure?" "Positive. Besides, I need the practice. David and I are trying, so I figure I should learn from the expert." Rebecca grinned. Emily watched her half-sister, this woman she'd only known for 3 months, caring for her daughter with such natural affection. Family. This was family. She made herself a plate of food and sat down next to Linda, Marcus's wife. Linda was a kind woman, a retired teacher who'd welcomed Emily into her home without hesitation or jealousy. She'd lost her own mother young, she'd explained, and understood what it meant to find family later in life. "How are you adjusting to motherhood?" Linda asked. "It's harder than I expected," Emily admitted. "The sleep deprivation is real, but also easier in some ways. I thought I'd be doing it alone, and instead I have all of you. That makes all the difference." "You're doing wonderfully. I've been watching you with Sarah, and that little girl is lucky to have you as her mother. You're patient and attentive and so full of love." "I'm terrified I'm going to mess her up somehow," Linda laughed. "That's how you know you're a good mother. The bad ones never worry about that. Trust me, I taught elementary school for 30 years. I can spot the difference." David joined them, holding a beer and looking thoughtful. "Can I ask you something, Emily? You don't have to answer if it's too personal." "Go ahead." "Do you regret marrying Richard? I mean, obviously it ended badly, but you wouldn't have Sarah without him." Emily thought about that. It was a question she'd asked herself many times. "I regret trusting him. I regret losing myself in that relationship. But Sarah? Never. She's the best thing that ever happened to me. So maybe Richard was just the vehicle that brought her into my life. The universe works in strange ways." "The universe and Judge Harrison," David said with a grin. "Dad told me how he figured out you were his daughter. The look on his face when he described seeing you in that courtroom, he said it was like Sarah herself was staring back at him." "He saved me," Emily said softly. "Not just legally, but emotionally. Knowing I had a father who actually cared, who'd been searching for me all those years, it gave me strength I didn't know I had." Marcus had come back inside and heard the last part. "You saved yourself, Emily. I just reminded you that you were worth saving." Later that night, after everyone had gone home and Sarah was finally asleep, Emily sat in her small apartment nursing a cup of tea and reflecting on the incredible journey of the past 6 months. She thought about the woman she'd been, walking into Richard's office with an anniversary dinner, expecting gratitude and getting betrayal instead. That Emily seemed like a stranger now, someone timid and small, living for someone else's approval. The new Emily, the one sitting here in an apartment she'd chosen, with a daughter sleeping peacefully in the next room and a family that actually loved her, was someone different, someone stronger. Her phone buzzed. A text from Patricia. "Saw the finalization papers went through. Congratulations. Drinks soon to celebrate? Non-alcoholic for you, obviously." Emily smiled and texted back. "Would love that. Thank you for everything. You literally saved my life." "You saved your own life. I just filed the paperwork," Patricia responded. "But seriously, I'm proud of you. Most people in your situation would have crumbled. You thrived." Another text came through, this one from an unknown number. Emily almost deleted it, but curiosity made her open it. "Emily, it's Richard. I know I have no right to contact you outside of custody arrangements, but I need to say something. I'm sorry. Not for leaving. We weren't right for each other, and I think we both know that now. But for how I left. For trying to take Sarah. For being cruel when I could have been kind. You deserved better than what I gave you. You deserved honesty and respect. I can't undo what I did, but I want you to know I see it now. I see what I lost and what I threw away. Not Sarah. I know I was never going to be Father of the Year, but the chance to be a decent human being. Vanessa opened my eyes when she turned on me so fast. I realized that's what I did to you. I became exactly like her. Anyway, I'm rambling. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. You're going to be a great mother. Sarah's lucky to have you. R. Emily read it twice, processing. It wasn't a grand romantic gesture or a plea to get back together. It was just an apology. Simple, direct, and probably as close to genuine remorse as Richard was capable of. She thought about responding, then decided against it. Some things didn't need a response. Some apologies were for the person giving them, not the person receiving them. Richard needed to say it. She didn't need to acknowledge it. She deleted the message and went to check on Sarah. Her daughter was sleeping peacefully, tiny hands curled into fists, her face serene. Emily stood there watching her breathe, still amazed that this perfect little human existed, that she was responsible for her, that she loved her with an intensity that sometimes felt overwhelming. "I'm going to mess up sometimes," she whispered to her sleeping daughter. "I'm going to make mistakes and bad decisions and probably embarrass you when you're a teenager. But I promise you this, I will always, always fight for you. The way my father fought for me. The way we fight for the people we love." Sarah made a small sound in her sleep, almost like agreement. Emily smiled and went back to the living room. She opened her laptop and for the first time in months, opened a blank document. She'd been a teacher once, had loved working with children. Maybe it was time to think about going back to work. Not right away. Sarah was still so young. But eventually, she wanted her daughter to see her mother as someone with purpose and passion, not just someone defined by motherhood alone. She started researching online teaching programs, flexible schedules that would let her work from home while Sarah was small. She found herself getting excited, that old spark of enthusiasm reigniting. She'd forgotten how much she enjoyed learning, growing, challenging herself. Richard had wanted her small and dependent, but she wasn't that person anymore. She was Emily Mitchell, survivor, mother, daughter of Marcus Harrison and Sarah Cartwright. She was someone who'd been knocked down and gotten back up. Someone who'd lost everything and built something better from the ruins. The next few months passed in a blur of baby milestones and personal growth. Sarah learned to roll over, then sit up, then babble endless strings of sounds that Emily and Marcus insisted were words. Emily enrolled in online teaching certification courses to update her credentials. Marcus taught her about investing and financial independence, making sure she understood how to manage money so she'd never be dependent on anyone again. Richard continued his supervised visits, but they were clearly a chore for him. He showed up because the court mandated it, held Sarah for the required hour, and left. Mrs. Chen reported that while he wasn't neglectful, he also wasn't engaged. He was going through the motions. Emily felt sad about that for Sarah's sake, but she couldn't force Richard to be a better father. She could only control her own actions, her own choices, and she chose to surround Sarah with people who genuinely loved her. Vanessa, meanwhile, had taken a plea deal on the perjury charges, community service and probation instead of jail time. Emily heard through Tara's grapevine that she'd left town, found some other wealthy man to latch onto in another city. Good riddance. One evening, about 8 months after the final court hearing, Marcus invited Emily to dinner at his house. When she arrived, she found him sitting at the kitchen table with a serious expression. "Is everything okay?" Emily asked, immediately worried. "Everything's fine," he assured her. "Better than fine, actually. I have something for you." He slid an envelope across the table. Emily opened it to find legal documents. She scanned them, confused at first, then shocked. "You're putting me in your will?" "More than that. I'm setting up a trust fund for Sarah, and I'm deeding you the cabin." The cabin was a small property Marcus owned in the mountains, a place he'd bought years ago as a retreat. Emily had visited it once and fallen in love with the peace and beauty of the location. "Marcus, I can't accept this." "Yes, you can. Emily, I have other children who I've already provided for. I lost 30 years with you. I can't give you back that time, but I can make sure you and Sarah are secure. Please, let me do this." "This is too much." "It's not enough," Marcus said firmly. "You're my daughter. I want to take care of you the way I should have been doing for your entire life." Emily's eyes filled with tears. You already take care of me. You're here. You show up. You love Sarah. That's worth more than any amount of money. Then consider this the cherry on top. Besides, the cabin needs someone to use it. It's just sitting empty. Most of the year. Take Sarah there. Make memories. That place was my refuge when life got hard. I want it to be that for you too. Emily came around the table and hugged him tightly. Thank you. For everything. For being the father I always needed. Thank you for giving me a second chance, Marcus said, his voice breaking. For not hating me for the man I was. For letting me be part of your life. They stayed like that for a long moment. Two people who'd found each other against impossible odds, grateful for the connection they'd almost never had. That weekend, Emily took Sarah to the cabin for the first time as its owner. She drove up the winding mountain road, watching the city disappear behind her, replaced by pine trees and clear air, and silence broken only by bird song. The cabin was small but cozy, with a stone fireplace and large windows overlooking a lake. Emily set up Sarah's portable crib, made herself tea, and sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. She thought about Richard, probably in his expensive, empty house, alone with his regrets and diminished business empire. She thought about Vanessa, chasing the next mark in another city, never understanding that real security comes from being someone worth loving, not from attaching yourself to someone with money. She thought about the woman she'd been 6 months ago, broken and terrified, believing she'd lost everything that mattered. And she looked at Sarah, sleeping peacefully in her arms, and Marcus's cabin surrounding them with warmth, and the future stretching ahead full of possibility. She hadn't lost everything. She'd lost the wrong things, and found all the right ones. We're going to be okay, baby girl, she whispered to Sarah. Better than okay. We're going to be happy. And in that moment, sitting in a cabin in the mountains with her daughter in her arms, and a family who loved her waiting back in the city, Emily Mitchell believed it. She believed in happiness again, in herself again, in the future again. Richard had tried to destroy her, but he'd only destroyed his power over her. And that, she realized, was the best thing he'd ever done for her. The divorce that was meant to break her had set her free. The custody battle that was meant to take her child had given her a father. The affair that was meant to replace her had shown her she deserved better. Emily started laughing, quiet at first, then louder. The sound echoed across the lake, joyful and free and completely genuine. Sarah stirred in her arms, her tiny face scrunching up before settling back into peaceful sleep. Your mama's a little crazy, Emily told her daughter. But it's the good kind of crazy, the kind that survived hell and came out stronger. And I'm going to teach you to be just as strong, just as fierce, just as unwilling to settle for less than you deserve. The sun finished setting, leaving, the sky streaked with purple and stars beginning to appear. Emily carried Sarah inside, tucked her into the crib, and then stood at the window looking out at the darkness dotted with distant lights from other cabins. Somewhere out there, Richard was living with his choices. Somewhere out there, Vanessa was looking for her next victim. Somewhere out there, other women were probably going through what Emily had gone through, feeling broken and alone and worthless. She wished she could tell them all that it gets better, that the end of something toxic is the beginning of something beautiful. That strength doesn't come from never falling down, but from getting back up every single time. Emily pulled out her phone and opened a blank note. She started writing, the words flowing faster than she could type. Her story, everything that had happened. The betrayal, the battle, the unexpected reunion with her father, the victory in court. By the time she finished, It was after midnight, and she had pages of raw, honest truth. She read through it, then saved it with a title: How I Lost My Husband and Found My Father. Maybe someday she'd publish it. Maybe someday her story would help another woman find the courage to fight back. Or maybe it would just sit in her files, a reminder to herself of how far she'd come. Either way, it felt good to write it, to own her story instead of being ashamed of it. Sarah woke up crying, hungry again. Emily picked her up, settled into the rocking chair Marcus had left in the cabin, and began to nurse her. The rhythm was soothing, meditative. She hummed quietly, a lullaby her mother used to sing that Marcus had taught her the full lyrics to. Hush now, baby, don't you cry. Mama's here to sing you a lullaby. Tomorrow brings another day, full of love and time to play. Simple words, sweet melody. The kind of song that had probably been sung by mothers to daughters for generations. Emily imagined her own mother singing it to her, decades ago, in a different time and place. Imagined Sarah singing it to her own children someday, the legacy continuing. That's what family was, she realized. Not just blood and legal documents, though those mattered too, but moments like this. Songs passed down, stories shared, love given freely with no conditions attached. Richard had offered her wealth without love. Marcus offered love that made her wealthy in ways that mattered more. She knew which one she'd choose every time. By the time Sarah finished eating and fell back asleep, Emily was exhausted. She climbed into the bed, left the curtains open so she could see the stars, and closed her eyes. Tomorrow she'd drive back to the city, back to her apartment and her online classes and the busy reality of being a single mother. But tonight, she'd sleep in peace, in a cabin gifted by a father who loved her, with a daughter who needed her, surrounded by the knowledge that she was exactly where she was supposed to be. The nightmare of her marriage to Richard was finally, completely over, and the dream of her new life was just beginning. 6 months later, Emily stood at the back of a college auditorium, watching as Marcus received an award for his years of service to family law. The room was packed with lawyers, judges, and people whose lives he'd touched over his career. When it was his turn to speak, Marcus stood at the podium and looked out at the crowd. His eyes found Emily, standing there with Sarah on her hip, and he smiled. "I've been a judge for 35 years, he began. "I've presided over thousands of cases, made decisions that affected countless lives, won awards and accolades, but none of that compares to the greatest case I never officially judged." He went on to tell their story, carefully leaving out identifying details but sharing the essence of what had happened. A lost daughter found, a second chance at family, the reminder that it's never too late to make things right. "That case taught me something I'd forgotten," Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. "That the law is supposed to protect the vulnerable. That justice isn't about technicalities or clever arguments, but about doing what's right. And that sometimes, the biggest victories happen not in the courtroom, but in the moments after, when broken families become whole again." The audience gave him a standing ovation. Emily was crying openly, not caring who saw. Sarah, now over a year old and babbling constantly, clapped her tiny hands together, mimicking the adults around her. After the ceremony, people approached Marcus to congratulate him. Several came up to Emily too, having figured out she was the daughter he'd mentioned. They told her she was lucky, that Marcus was a great man, that they were happy for them both. "We're both lucky," Emily corrected gently. "He found me, but I found him too. That's how family works. You find each other." That night, the whole family celebrated together. Marcus and Linda, David and Rebecca and their partners, Tara, who'd become part of the family too, and Emily with Sarah. They filled Marcus's house with laughter and love, and the kind of chaos that comes from people who genuinely enjoy being together. Emily watched it all, marveling at how different her life was from what she'd imagined a year ago. She'd thought her story was about a marriage ending, but it was really about a woman finding herself, about discovering strength she didn't know she had, about learning that sometimes you have to lose everything to gain what actually matters. As the party wound down and people started leaving, Marcus pulled Emily aside. "I have one more surprise," he said. "Remember how you mentioned wanting to write about your experience, help other women going through similar situations?" "Yeah, but I haven't had time." "I talked to a friend who runs a nonprofit for domestics, abuse survivors. They want someone to lead workshops, help women navigate the legal system, provide support. It's part-time, flexible hours, and it pays enough to help with expenses. I thought of you." Emily stared at him. "You did that for me?" "I made a phone call and recommended someone I believe in. You did the rest just by being who you are. The question is, are you interested?" Emily thought about the woman she'd been a year ago, terrified and alone in a courtroom, facing down a system designed to favor people with money and power. She thought about how much difference it would have made to have someone who'd been through it before, someone who could say, "I understand, and here's how you survived this." "Yes," she said firmly. "Absolutely, yes." Marcus beamed. "Then consider it done. You start next month if you want it." Emily hugged him tightly. "Thank you for believing in me." "Thank you for giving me something to believe in," Marcus replied. As Emily drove home that night, Sarah sleeping in her car seat, she felt a peace she'd never experienced before. Not the absence of problems. Life was still hard. Money was still tight. Single motherhood was still exhausting. But the presence of purpose, of meaning, of knowing she was exactly where she needed to be, doing exactly what she was meant to do. Her phone rang. She answered on Bluetooth, expecting Tara or maybe Marcus. Instead, it was Richard. "Emily, I know it's late. I hope I didn't wake Sarah." "She's asleep. What do you need, Richard?" "I wanted to let you know I'm moving to Seattle. A business opportunity came up. I'll still do my court-mandated video calls with Sarah, but I won't be around for in-person visits anymore." Emily felt nothing. No sadness, no anger, just a mild curiosity. "Okay. Does Sarah know you're her father yet? Or are you still just the stranger she sees on a screen once a week?" Silence. Then, "That's fair. I deserve that. Emily, I'm not good at this. At being a dad, I thought I would be, thought I wanted it, but the reality is I don't know how to be what she needs." "Then be honest about it," Emily said, not unkindly. "Don't make promises you won't keep. Don't pop in and out of her life causing confusion. Either commit to being her father, really being there, or step back and let her grow up with people who actually want to be present." More silence. Then, "You're right. I'll think about it." He hung up. Emily knew what he'd decide. Richard would fade away, send child support checks to ease his conscience, maybe show up for a birthday or two before disappearing completely. And Sarah would be fine. She had Marcus as a grandfather, David and Rebecca as aunt and uncle, Linda as a grandmother figure, and Emily as a mother who loved her more than anything in the world. She didn't need Richard. Neither of them did. Emily pulled into her apartment complex and carefully transferred sleeping Sarah from car seat to crib. She got ready for bed, did a final check on her daughter, and then sat at her laptop to finish an assignment for her teaching certification. Before she started, she pulled up that document she'd written months ago. How I Lost My Husband and Found My Father. She read through it again, made a few edits, and then did something she'd been too scared to do before. She sent it to a women's magazine that published personal essays, Maybe they'd reject it. Probably they would. But maybe, just maybe, someone would read it and see themselves in her story. Would find hope in knowing they weren't alone. Would discover that the end of one chapter is just the beginning of another. Emily closed her laptop and went to bed, exhausted but content. Tomorrow she'd wake up to Sarah's babbling, make breakfast, attend her online class, maybe take a walk in the park. Ordinary, simple things that meant everything. Because this was her life now. Not perfect, but hers. Built on her own terms, filled with people who chose to love her, directed toward a future she was creating one day at a time. And if that wasn't a happy ending, Emily didn't know what was. So, if you've enjoyed this entire journey, thanks for staying tuned. Emily's story is a reminder that our darkest moments can lead to our greatest transformations. That family isn't always who you're born to. Sometimes it's who finds you when you need them most. And that strength isn't about never falling down. It's about getting back up every single time life knocks you over. If this story resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming stories. Drop a comment below, telling us what you thought about Emily's journey. We read every single one, and your thoughts mean the world to us. Sometimes knowing we're not alone makes all the difference.